G'day there guys, Markee here, back at it again with another episode of r/Idontworkherelady. Now if you love my bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Have a good one. Posted by user Goblin Queen Forever, titled, Karen Got Slapped. Okay, so this only just happened a few hours ago, and I still have a bit of an adrenaline rush, so bear with me. As everyone is bound to know, shopping lately has been a little hectic. The mass crowding has gotten better now that there are limitations on how many people can enter a shop at one point, but everyone is still pretty stressed out and all dolled up in their lovely fashionable face masks. All that being said, there is no excuse for what this woman did. I live in England, and over here we have a certain big supermarket store with a burgundy and orange themed uniform. So after finally getting through the queue into the store, I grabbed a cart and I was off. I was there for maybe 20 minutes when I rounded the condiments aisle and caught what happened. First, there was a woman, younger looking, maybe teenager, who was wearing an orange jacket, but it looked like one of those bright neon tracksuit ones, not the uniform, crouching down on her knees, looking through whatever was on the lowest level. I do that sometimes. The cheaper stuff tends to be from food companies who can't afford the premium shelf space, and she was wearing AirPods. Next, there was an older woman. Not a Karen in the typical haircut, overweight, overdressed sense, but she did have that face. That, I'm too important to be kept waiting, serve me now, peasant, face. And no mask, standing behind this clearly oblivious girl. I'm wondering why they say no mask, what does that mean? She had to have been trying to get her attention before I even walked into the aisle, and for some reason, the moment I appeared, she snapped. I'll never know what possessed her, but this older lady actually reached down and grabbed the younger by her underarm, yanking her up to face her. The girl reacted as I believe many people would. Without even asking questions, she yelped, spun off-balanced, and clocked Karen right in the face. It was glorious. The woman's nose started bleeding, and the young lady was just standing there in shock. Someone loudly announced they were going to get an employee, while I put myself between the Karen and the young girl, fearing the older woman may try to retaliate. The girl looked dumb with shock. Meanwhile, Karen started screaming. I didn't really catch what she was saying in the haze of it all, but I know a bloke behind me was shouting back at her, telling her she shouldn't have grabbed a girl and that it was her own fault. More screaming, then the employees showed up. From there, it was just a matter of getting everyone's stories. Pretty much everyone who stuck around saw Karen grab the girl first, so Karen had no leg to stand on, though it didn't stop her from demanding the police be called and that she was going to press charges. The police had already been called by a manager, and us witnesses were asked to stay and wait for them. Some couldn't, as they were there with families and such, but I, having nothing better to do, stuck around. At this point, the girl had calmed down and was just kind of standing there silently while the woman continues to scream about pressing charges and suing and you're fired, while the manager just kept on repeating things like, "She doesn't work here, ma'am. Please calm down, ma'am." The police questioning was actually pretty fast, if boring. Not at all as interesting as it is in the movies. I didn't get to see a grand parade of Karen being dragged away in cuffs, sadly. Once all the statements had been taken, both women were escorted outside by police, and that was pretty much the end of it for me. I did still see them in the parking lot speaking to different officers, but couldn't get close enough to hear anything that went down. I made sure the police and the store had my number, just in case. Finished my shopping, and then went home. It's been a few hours. It was surreal, and I'm actually kind of hoping it ends up on YouTube in the next few days. So there's my story. Hope it entertained. Our next post is by user 5 meters per second, titled, Get off your damn chair and help. Hey guys, I'm currently working for a third-party vendor for one of the most well-known retail stores in the US, hint, Blue Vest era. My priority is selling mobile data plans and mobile accessories. In other words, I'm the phone person. This also means that while I work at the electronics counter in the store of Blue Vests, I don't actually work for them. This, of course, also means that there are certain tasks I'm not supposed to do, including ringing up people that aren't purchasing any mobile accessories. There are sometimes exceptions, like when the rest of the electronics associates are swamped because of understaffing. While I do try to help out when they're super busy, the point is that I'm not supposed to too often. One afternoon, when I was adding some inventory to the system, one of the associates asked if I could ring up the lady, who is now Karen, who was buying iPhone screen protectors. He was the only associate working at the time, and there was a mini line of 5 people. He wanted to help the next customer while I ring Karen up. One thing I forgot to mention is that I have my own little area at the electronics counter. There, I have my own little seat and computer that many customers have mistaken as a cash register. It's understandable since there's also a card reader there. Not much happened while I was checking her items out. It was just like any normal transaction at the cash register. She thanks me and I tell her to have a good day. Afterward, I go back to my seat to complete the inventory. About 10 minutes later, while I'm still sitting at my computer, it happens. Karen taps her nails on my counter. I look at her smiling and I say, yeah, and she shoves her pointed finger in my face. You need to get off your damn chair and help everyone that's in line right now. I'm immediately annoyed and I say, excuse me? We have all been waiting in line and you've just been sitting here doing nothing. It's not fair. The other associate cuts in and says, ma'am, she actually isn't a Walmart associate and is actually supposed to strictly be in charge of phones. Karen, surprised that he came to my defense, says, oh, I was just trying to help you. Yes, I understand, but if you could just wait in line, I will be able to assist you soon. Oh, okay, I see. You see, I thought I saw her. Yes, I understand. Then the Karen left without apologizing, of course. Just kind of waddled off. The other associate and I just shared a look of, what the hell was that? Karen didn't even go back in line. In fact, she wasn't in line in the first place. I'd already helped her and she left, and for some reason felt the need to come back and yell at me. But yeah, so that's my little I don't work here story. I have a couple more, but this is the first one that came to mind. Hope you enjoyed. Oh, and I treated that associate to Starbucks. Posted by user BlowPink, titled, I Don't Work Here Lady Success. I usually try to avoid employees at grocery stores. They're busy with their jobs and whatever my needs are can wait. If I can't find something, I'll search the entire store before I dare ask someone where something is. Very relatable. Or peek around at other people's carts and ask them kindly, oh, where'd you find that? People are usually willing to help if it doesn't inconvenience them. This day, my mother sent me to the store to get steaks. Nothing else as she already went shopping, but she wasn't happy with the steak selection at that store. Steaks are an unknown world to me. I don't know what I'm looking for. If I got the wrong one for my mother, I knew I'd be hearing about it for a week. Looking at this wall of meat was overwhelming, so I see a couple, they look to be in their 30s, picking out a few steaks. I kindly asked them, sorry, I know you don't work here. Do you know anything about steak? I'm supposed to pick some up for the family, but I don't know what I'm looking for. The husband rolled his eyes and laughed and said, ask her. And the wife busted out laughing. I'm actually a chef downtown. Of course I can help you. Yo, I learned so much about steaks in the 5 minutes we talked. She asked me how I plan to cook it. On the grill. How many people I'm feeding? 3. Do I plan to marinate? Yes. For how long? Up to an hour. She picked out the best cuts of New York strip for me, took me down to the spice aisle and told me how to make a marinade, how high to set the grill, how to time it perfectly, told me how to rotate it 45 degrees twice, edits on one side each. I went home and made the best steak dinner for my family. They were so impressed. Now I'm in charge of grilling steaks for family occasions like Easter, Memorial Day, Dad's birthday, and so on. Thank you so much for the kind lady who didn't work there. You have no idea how much your attention impacted my life that day. I'm forever grateful. She puts a big edit down here, and if it fits into a comment, I'll pin it down below. It's the recipe for how they did this, Montreal steak. Posted by user Sir Smokes the Joker, titled, Lighthearted I Don't Work Here Guy. This interaction was friendly and involved a guy. Cast, hungry guy, and me is me. So I'm on break, essential worker, and I walk to this drive-in burger place right next to my work. I'm reading the menu, and HG and his friend get out of the car and look for where to get in line. Conversation ensues. Hey, do you know if they take credit cards here? I shrug my shoulder and say, dunno, I don't work here, my guy. Oh, gotcha. And he laughs at himself for being a silly human. I can see where he's coming from because both my workplace and the drive-in employees both wear red shirts, but I had my yellow vest, hat branded with company logo on, same thing with mask and polo shirt, and my name tag as well. Posted by user Michelle Bites, hope she doesn't, titled, Karen needs her very own checkout lane. This happened several years ago. I was shopping at Garden Ridge, which sold household items, decor items, gifts, and craft supplies. It was a huge store with 2 entrances and 2 sets of checkout lanes, 1 set at each entrance. I was casually shopping when a round woman in her 50s or 60s got right in front of my cart. She glared at me, and I tried to go around her, but stopped me again, saying, "You gonna help me or not?" I said, "What?" "I need a register opened so I can check out." I looked at her, astounded. I said, "I don't work here, but there are registers open at the other entrance." To which she replied, "I don't want to walk to those registers. Now open one and check me out." I looked her in the eye and said sternly, "I don't work here." She threw her hands up in the air and started to walk away. As she was walking away, she turned and yelled at me, "This isn't over." I ignored her. I grabbed the last couple of items that I needed and headed over to the registers/checkouts. I noticed the line was not moving, and I could hear that awful woman's voice. She was arguing with the cashier. The cashier called a manager. Other people waiting in line were getting impatient, and it was showing. The manager arrived and instructed the cashier to open another register so that the rest of us, the sane people, could check out. "How come you open a register for them but not for me?" the awful woman yelled at the manager. He replied, "Ma'am, you're at an open register now. What can I help you with?" I wanted a register opened at the other door, and one of your workers refused to do it. She kept babbling nonsense. I raised my hand and got the manager's attention. The awful woman looked over at me at the same time that the manager did. "It was her. She wouldn't open a register for me. Then she lied and said she didn't work here," shouted the awful woman. "Ma'am, she doesn't work here," the manager said. "Are you going to help me out or not?" she yelled. "I'm trying to help you, ma'am, but you haven't asked for something that I can help you with. If you want to check out, then I'll check you out." The awful woman huffed and puffed and started angrily putting her items on the counter. I was nearly done paying for my items at the other checkout lane when she was done paying for hers. The manager handed her the receipt and told her to have a nice day. As the awful woman was walking towards the door, she paused and shouted, "I guess customer service is dead here." The manager shouted back, "Ma'am, you can call corporate and get that out of your system. I'm not going to allow you to disrespect me or my staff." "Oh, I'm definitely calling corporate, and I'm telling them everything that happened here today," she yelled. I was walking past her and said to her, "I'm sure that will be rich. Tell them you need to have your own personal checkout lane while you're at it." She looked at me, red-faced and shaking, and yelled, "I plan on it," then took off following the sidewalk around the building. As I walked to my car, I was still in shock that someone can be so awful. Posted by user Pale Credit, titled, "Oh, are you using that?" Height of pandemic, I needed to get some groceries for myself and dog. I live in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood and shop at the local market. I'm looking for a shopping basket and finally find one. Pick it up, and I'm about to begin shopping when this middle-aged white dude comes up to me and says, "Oh yes, I need that." I'm Hispanic and Asian, so you can guess from there that he assumed I worked there. He proceeds to walk towards me, hands open, expecting me to give it to him. I give him the "what the hell" look, and he quickly responds, "Oh, are you using that?" I walk away, still with the WTF face, and see him turning as red as my basket. Posted by user K then Reddit, titled, Whistling at me is not the way to go. This just happened 1 hour ago. I'm wearing a white hoodie, black pants and Nike trainers, as well as clearly visible headphones and a snapback hat. In no way do I look like I work. Well, anywhere really. So I'm essentially having one of those days. I hate everyone and everything and just want to be left alone. However, I had to do a little bit of shopping, so I went down to my local supermarket to pick up a few items. Bit of food, drinks, etc. Walking around with my cart, headphones on, listening to old rock songs like Linkin Park, 3 Days Grace, that kind of thing. Just going about my day. When my phone rings, which cuts my music off, so I answer the phone and take my headphones out, just so I don't end up shouting inside a busy supermarket like a crazy person when a soft excuse me gets said. So I push the cart and myself a few steps forward, still talking on the phone. Excuse me? A little louder this time. I quickly glance back and move to the opposite side of the aisle, completely out of the way. I said, excuse me. Now answer me and help me. This woman bellowed. I looked at the lady and showed her my phone and said, I don't work here. Go bother someone else. She just stands there, tapping her foot, looking at her watch. I look at her, shaking my head, clearly getting annoyed with her constantly tapping her foot and sighing, mumbling under her breath. I lower my phone and ask her, can you please leave me alone? I just said I don't work here. She just shakes her head, looks back at her watch, then whistles at me like a dog, holding her arms out to her side. Are you done yet? I need you to help me. I just ignore her. Then she whistles again. So I lashed out. Listen here, love. I'm not a fudging dog, so don't whistle at me like one. She looks at me in shock and horror, then slaps my phone out of my hand and walks off. I shake my head as she goes away, picking up my phone, and then yell at her, excuse me, and whistle at her as she turns the corner. I had a good laugh with my friend on the other end of the phone after that. It cheered me up and has currently got me through the last hour of my day so far, and will keep me going. Also, upon remembering my last 2 stories, I realize my phone seems to attract crazy people and tends to get hit out of my hand a lot. Posted by user Morsimanen, titled, Visiting a Restaurant When Literally Everything Went Down the Drain. I made a post in the Idontworkherelady where I was surprised by the owner of a restaurant that were very much appreciated by the readers, so I thought I would type up another thing happening in the said restaurant, this time in this sub. This story, however, is quite different from what you usually read in here. This happened 10 years ago in the winter. Me and my friend went to a restaurant to grab some food and a few beers. We got our beers and started with the appetizers, and my friend, the owner, sat down at the table to have a chat. It had been really cold for a long time, and most people stayed home because of it, and the restaurant wasn't actually crowded. The layout of the restaurant is kitchen and bar in one end and 2 large rooms for the table. The rooms are separated by a wall with openings at each end for the waiters to go their rounds. There were a few guests in each room, so like I said, it wasn't crowded. Suddenly, it started dripping water from the ceiling in the other room. Not much, but only a few drops, and they hit a woman in the head. We are quite relaxed in my country, so she simply moved away from the dripping and over to another table. It was cold outside, so it might just be condensation. After a few minutes, it became very clear that that wasn't the issue. We heard a bang, and the pipe for the sprinkler system broke. The water in it had frozen. Water started to flow, and the tables they were sitting on was hit directly. The sprinkler system had quite a high pressure to it, and the water kept gushing out, and everyone at that table was getting soaking wet. The guests jumped out of their chairs and to a dry place before they left and went home. The owner and waiters ran around like headless chickens and didn't know what to do. It was complete chaos. My friend that I was with ran, after asking the owner where the water valves were, downstairs and into the valve room where he turned the water off while I was calling the fire department. They asked me a bunch of questions and I answered the best I could. I explained to them that I don't work here, but somebody needed to take charge of the situation. I was simply a guest. All the guests went, of course, home. Nobody sued anyone, as that's not something we usually do here when accidents happen. Me and my friend sat back down at our table and finished our food and beers while the fire department sucked all the water up and did damage control. The owner came and sat down with us again, and we talked about what he needed to do if it should happen again. Our food and beers were of course comped by the owner. Sorry for the lack of Karens. Edit. We just did what we had to do to save our favorite restaurant, as the boss himself, our friend, was panicking. After all, we wanted to visit him and the place again, as we get good food, good service, and huge discounts every time we enter there. I wonder why we get the discounts. Posted by user Cryatuns, titled, I am just 13. I want to apologize for my English. I know it's not the best, but I'm still learning. This story passed 3 years ago. I was going with my mother to the supermarket, and I was doing my things, just walking around and watching the products, when my mum told me to go find insert generic brand of ice cream. So I began to walk around when this girl came up to me and said, "Excuse me, where do I find sandals?" Huh? I don't know. I was asking myself if this place was selling sandals in the first place. Why don't you know? You work here. It's not even a big place. You stupid or something? Me, questioning if this girl didn't know what the workers wear, or like the uniform they wear, say, no, you should ask a person that does work here. The girl growled, "Grr, you work here. You look like the type of person that will work in a supermarket." Oh, okay. I was 13 years old at this point, but I've always been a tall person. When people get confused about my age, I just told them that I'm not that old. A 13-year-old girl will work in a supermarket? The girl shut up and just got away growling. I got all the ice cream that I want after I told my mother. Posted by user Mary Rose Tudor, titled, I haven't worked there in 15 years. This is my sister's story, not mine. Backstory. Way back in the day, my sister worked at a drive-in restaurant named after a blue hedgehog. She worked there her senior year from 2004 to 2005. I was a small thing during this time, but it doesn't have anything to do with the story that happens so many years later. My sister is now a teacher at a local high school. Like I said, my sister is a teacher. It was December when this happened. She was getting ready for finals and also getting stressed at the same time. My sister called me up and asked if I wanted to go to the mall that weekend. That weekend rolls around and we go to the mall. We stay at the mall for a couple of hours. It was around lunchtime and we stopped in the food court and got some Chinese food. My sister's phone rang, she answered it, and the conversation went like this. Keep in mind, it was only sided. I guess it's one-sided they mean. Hello? What? No, I think you have the wrong number. Yes? Yeah, I am sister's name, but no, I cannot come. Why not? Well, it's one Saturday and I'm a teacher. Look, I don't know how you got this number, but I don't work here. Don't call me again. I looked at my sister as she hung up and asked what that was about. Said, what's that about? Oh, that was restaurant name, you know, the one I used to work at in high school. Definitely not Sonic. They called saying that I was on the schedule. Me, trying not to laugh, says, why the hell would your name be on the schedule? You haven't been there since I was 8. We're 10 years apart. She got the job there when I was 7 and left when I was turning 8. I know, right? We continue with our lunch without further interruption. Later that week, my sister had contacted the manager of the restaurant she used to work at. Since the time she had been there, the restaurant had changed managers several times. She called the manager up and the conversation went like this, from what she told me. Hi, I'd like to speak to the manager, please. The manager comes to the phone. This is the manager. Is there a problem? Yeah. I was wondering why you still had my information from over 15 years ago. Excuse me? Well, you called me on Saturday, remember? Saying I had to come in? Look, I just wanted to tell you that information is no longer valid. I'm 32 years old. I don't live in hometown anymore. I haven't lived there since I was 18. I'm a teacher. I want you to throw that information out, okay? Well, your name is Sister's name, right? Look, I have your information right here. Sister, beyond done with the manager. Sir, I'm trying to be nice. Look at the address. This is not my home address. I haven't lived there until since I was 20. My home address is, and gives her home address. Well, I don't know what to tell you. I have your information right here. If you don't come in, I'm gonna fire you. This has been going on long enough. I don't care. Just get rid of my information. She hung up after that. My sister didn't hear back from the manager for about a few weeks, and when he did, he told her that he was sorry and there was a huge mix-up. When my sister left the Sonic restaurant in 2005, they were switching over to computers for their record keeping, and somehow her information was never deleted and was kept in the computer for a good decade. We didn't know how her information came again after so many years. He just assumed that she was the new girl who he hired, who had a similar last name to hers, was hired, but only showed up a couple of times to work. After that, she never heard anything from that manager, but she said she got war flashbacks from her time at the restaurant name, definitely not Sonic, and vowed to never go back there again. You guys got any good stories from a restaurant name that you worked at? Please do tell me in the comments. G'day there guys, Outro Markee here. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. Now with that said, we have some special mentions. Everyone that signed up for my Patreon, everyone that's a channel member, you guys all know who you are. I'm going to start putting you on screen in the near future. Sorry, I'm very lazy, but I do love each and every one of you, and you all know that. If you want to join, there is links down in the description below. If you want to be a channel member, there's a join button next to subscribe. It helps me out immensely. Also, I have a second channel that does memes. It's called Markee 2. It should be on screen here now. If you like memes and you want to laugh with me, it's some not so politically correct content all the time. Hope you enjoy it. Click on the screen, subscribe, and enjoy the memes. That's all I have for today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.